How's it going? Let me know if you can hear me fine. We'll get started in just a second. It's going to adjust a couple things. We'll get moving. Make myself a little bigger for now. Loud and clear. Good, good, good. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We are doing a system administration stream, which is a continuance of the Linux both video and stream series. So just do a couple quick channel announcements. If you want to ask a question about anything in the stream, I have some, as is with all streams, people submit questions ahead of time through Google Forms. So I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 12 of those. And then the rest of the stuff I'm going to get directly from the chat. So if you want to add any input to the stream, you can do so in the chat, and I will answer questions from there, hopefully. We're probably gonna be doing one more video, one more stream. I think we're farther along in the series than I expected to get at this point, so I don't think we're gonna need the full 10. Or the full 9, or however many I was going to do. So I may cut that short. We'll play that by ear. Definitely one more video, one more stream for sure. And then we'll likely go back to some other content. So I'm seeing a lot of names I always see in the stream. So thanks a lot for coming here and you know, watching and supporting. That's really good. Yeah, so that's pretty much that. Let's just get started. The topic today is system administration. So, but I'll answer any questions on Linux. You don't have to necessarily ask systems administration specifically. I chose this one because I thought it was a little more broad. And as it turns out, people who are systems administrators for Linux, you know, a lot of it is fundamental stuff. And that's the kind of things we're going to be talking about today. Kelvin, this is my first time catching a stream here. Well, welcome. I stream periodically, every 2 weeks for the next little while. All right, let me switch to my normal thing here. Remember, this is a totally interactive stream. You know, it's like 80 people. So if you want your question answered live, you can just ask in the chat, and I will see it. I read chat this whole time. Readjust myself. The Linux admin life is a fun one. Yeah, I think you know, people always ask me, like, do you like programming? Is there anything else you wish you did? And the question is, I actually do. So, you know, I've done programming a long time. I've been programming since I was 9 years old. I'm 37 now, so that comes out to be about 28 years. Obviously, all of that is not professionally. I haven't been a professional developer for 28 years. You know, I wasn't doing professional projects, you know, at 10 years old or anything, but I have at least been involved in programming for, you know, that time, and have been refining the skill since then. But, you know, just like anything else, things get old, and, you know, I reach burnout on stuff I'm doing, just like any other person. And so if I had a career switch to something else that I wanted to do, it would be involved purely with Linux, whether that's like Linux engineering or sysadmin or something like that. I would definitely get involved in that. It's very interesting to me. Obviously, being a programmer, and I guess to a lesser degree, you know, jack of all trades, you know, at organizations that I work in, I typically wear a lot of hats, whether that's the management aspect or you know, doing actual development or DevOps, doing deployments, Q&A. I kind of do a lot of different things. That's just what I've always been involved in. So, you know, it's something that I could have transferred to. It's something that I do incidentally in my job today, but I wouldn't mind doing it full time. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Hi, I'm a junior full stack developer trying to get better understanding of Linux to help me understand virtualization tools. I find your content very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. Well, I'm really glad that you found the content helpful. That's terrific. You know, I make this content. I've always made content for exactly one reason, and that's to help the viewer. That's it. I don't make it for views. I don't make it for revenue. I don't make it for any other reason than to help you learn a very specific thing. And that's kind of what that's kind of the niche of this channel. So I'm glad that that's helped you a lot. How to hack using Burp Suite. That is a very complicated question, complicated answer. Okay, let's take the first thing here. So Eric asked, can you speak a little bit about processes? And as I'm answering these questions, feel free to keep typing in chat. That's no problem. I'll definitely do that. You're a great teacher. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. So Eric asks, can you speak a little about processes? How do PIDs work? So a PID is nothing more than a process ID. It's just going to be the number that the Linux kernel gives to a running process to identify it on the system. And this PID can be used for a variety of things, most commonly checking its resource limits, checking its memory usage, and also killing it, suspending it, or doing other management tasks such as that. And in terms of what a process is, you can think of a process as just any running program on Linux. So everything that starts to include your web browser, your editor, and things in the background that you don't even see, all those have process IDs. So I'll just run top real quick and I'll just exit. So this PID out here, that's going to be the number that's given to the program as it's running. Now, all these PIDs that are really a low number, these are going to be the ones that are actually started when the system starts. And then every process also has a parent process, with the exception of one thing, and that's PID 1. So when we talk about PID 1, we're referring to the program that the kernel starts. So the kernel will start systemd will start everything else. And systemd becomes the default parent for processes that no longer have a parent. And so that's processes. Everything on the system is just assigned a number, and then that number is just released when the process ends, and then it's assigned to something else later. So high numbers are typically ones like OBS. This is me streaming right now with OBS. So this is PID 2479990. And then it tells me, the RAM that's being used and whatnot. And there's other ways to look at this stuff. So, the simple PS command, this just gives you the current running stuff within your current login. So, I'm running a variety of things. I'm running Webpack and Node, and this is all like my personal and professional projects that I'm working on actively at the moment. But we can get, PS aux is another good one. This shows you every process ordered by PID, and so if you wanted to limit it to like grep OBS, then you'd get everything that has OBS in it, and you'd get process information in a slightly different way. So PID, CPU, RAM, and so on. But at its very basic, a process is just a running program. That's it. So if I do sleep 3, it sleeps for 3 seconds. Sleep is a running program. PS aux equals bad style. Oh, BSC style. Sorry, I read that wrong. I was like, what? Bad style? What are you talking about? Yeah, PS aux is what I've always used. I really like that one the most. I think it gives the best information. But what you use to look at process, there's Linux is one of those things where there's 10 different ways to do everything, and like slicing and dicing processes and figuring out the info you want is one of those things that can be done. Your dream, your future. How can I give my Linux server the best security possible? So I would say the answer to that is using a distro of Linux that runs the bare minimum amount of stuff. So when I think about security with Linux, I think about things on a system that can be exploitable. And the more things you have running, the more potential exploits you have. This is particularly true with a network connected server that has open ports, because that means that not only is that program potentially exploitable, but it's also accessible to anybody on the internet that has access to that IP and port, which is probably everybody. So when I think of hardening a Linux system, I think of running a small amount of things, and I think of running those things with a version that is like very stable and battle tested. So I would choose a distro that is preferring Slightly older but stable software over bleeding edge, because it's gonna be the bleeding edge software that's going to have the problems usually. Not always true, but you know, obviously we saw a bug in OpenSSL recently. Obviously that's you know, when I think of battle tested software, OpenSSL is one of the things that comes to mind. You know, obviously the reason people find problems with that is just because it's so widespread, and it underpins so many things on a Linux system and a server that's, you know, if you're going to exploit anything, pick something that's going to affect a lot of, you know, systems and users. So RHEL. So I always treated CentOS as like the stable distro, because all the software was always old. I'd argue that it was like too old. You know, I feel like it could be a little newer, but you know, that's what it was. LeetCode teaches you how to be good at LeetCode. Yeah, reduce the attack plane service with Docker. Yeah, Docker is another good option, because you're like lumping everything into a box, which is kind of nice. Yeah. Oh, is that stop turning off SELinux? Yes. So there's so many people. There's so many people that I meet that the very first thing is they install CentOS and they just disable SELinux, and you know, because SELinux is preventing them from doing things that would otherwise be accepted on other distros. Basic things like, you know, running on a low numbered port, or accessing some file. So, can you show how to read htop properly? Let's read htop. In terms of duplicate stuff, so the duplication that you're seeing is going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but the duplication you're seeing is going to be threads, and that's, I'm not actually sure how to fix that. I know with normal top they lump it all in. Like if you look at normal top with OBS, you can see I'm getting 118.8 CPU. Well, how's that possible? You know, if a process can only consume, or rather, if a thread can only consume up to exactly 1 CPU, how is this consuming 1.18 CPUs? And the answer is it's not. The answer is this is threading that's occurring, and it's X number of threads across X number of cores that's consuming a total of 1.18 cores. So with htop, there's no whoops. You know, there's no OBS individual process that's taken up, you know, 1.2, but all of these combined, I think, is taken up the 1.2. I think. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not accurate. So it's just threads versus processes. And threads you can think of as a subroutine in a running program. That's what that is. One process can have as many threads as it needs, and oftentimes it does, because that's how you utilize, you know, more resources. No, I just looked and it's deprecated. SFTP, okay. Yeah, what's cool about SELinux is it has built-ins to fix all sorts of issues. It does. I generally think SELinux is a good thing. I think if you're just disabling it just from the outset, I don't think that's smart. At a bare minimum, SELinux has 3 modes: enabled, permissive, and disabled. And like permissive is just disabled, but it warns you if you violate something with SELinux. So at a bare minimum, if you must disable SELinux, at least put it in permissive mode. That way you get the warnings, and then, you know, you can at some point, you know, work on correcting those warnings. 95 watching, 43 likes. Yep. Yeah. You know, so my biggest stream ever that I ever did was like 575 people. So I think it's just the content. That's just what it is. You know, no big deal. I will tell you that I'm more than content for streaming to 10 people. That's fine. And in fact, the very first stream that I ever did, which was back when I had maybe, I don't know, 15,000 subscribers, I think I streamed for like 8 people, and like 2 of them are my friends. So, you know, that's totally fine. I don't mind doing that. Not a big deal at all. I'm here to teach whoever will show up. So yeah, don't worry, SSH is coming. Somebody asked that question. Right here. Can you walk us through how to set up SSH? So we are going to do SSH things. Don't worry. Yeah, I've streamed to 0 people for hours, Twitch in the beginning. Yeah, that's what it is. You know, nothing happens immediately. So, all right, that's it for processes. Next question. Lemuria asked, how many user accounts have you ever seen on a Linux system? What's the maximum number of users a Linux system can support? So the answer to the maximum is going to be 32-bit integer, so 4 billion users. The answer previously was like 65K, that'd be 16-bit integer users. How many I actually see on a system? So the thing about Linux is people are not using it as like a multi-user desktop. I almost never see that occur. So the users that I see on a system are often like logical, not logical, are often users that need to run processes in like a given context, as opposed to a user that is actually, you know, logging into the system. So if I look at my Etsy password thing, I see a lot of different users in here, you know, one of which is like, you know, Redis. So, you know, the Redis user exists to run Redis. That's its whole point. And you could see its login shell is user sbin no login. So it's not actually allowed to log in, and its home folder is the area where Redis is. And that's what that user's for, not for logging in. You know, on my system, there's one login user, it's just Brian. And then most systems, that's what I see. Systems in the cloud, I typically see, you know, 1 or 2 users that are unprivileged users that are sudoers, meaning that they can drop to root. And there's obviously a root user, but I rarely see a ton of like login users on a system. I just don't see it usually. Yeah, we'll get to that. Oh, Arthur asks, is there I gotta go back to the processes thing. Arthur asks, is there a process with a PID 0? And the answer is no. The lowest process PID is a 1, and that's your init system. Oh, Andrew also asked different options for killing processes. So the most popular is just the kill command, and let me see, kill-l. So here is your when I think of options for the kill command, it's all of these. These are all the different signals that you can send to processes, and all these signals can be ignored except for one. We'll talk about that in a second. These are signals that a program should handle either in a custom way or by default. The most popular ones that you'll use a lot is 1, 2, 9, and 15. So sig term, that's the most common one. So if I were to do a sleep 10 and then I press Control C, that's me sending it a sig term. It's the most popular one. It usually just cancels the command, and that's kind of it. This is also the least like forceful one. So, you know, programs can choose to just ignore the sig term and just do nothing with it. So sig hup or sig hangup, this is a signal that a process will get if a terminal is exited and it has child processes, I think. And so that kills both the terminal and its children. This is also one that can be ignored. You can ignore a sig hup. There's also a command called no hup, which is specifically designed to catch a sig hangup and just, you know, do nothing with it. So you could do like no hup, you know, sleep 5. And what that does is that makes it so the sleep command, which could have otherwise be terminated with signal hangup, and just make it not terminate in that case. So the actual forceful one is a sig kill. The difference with sig kill, unlike the other signals, is with the other signals, a program has the opportunity to exit itself gracefully. So with a sig term, the program can say, oh, okay, the computer is requesting that I close, so I need to, like, you know, close out these files, or I need to do this and that. And so it has an opportunity to shut it down gracefully. Donovan, hello, EM, hello. I'm glad you're here on the stream again. That's 2 in a row now. It's 2 in a row. It's good. So the difference with sig kill is saying, I'm sorry, program, you are done. And it's the kernel, it just removes it from the process table, and that process is dead. Sig kill cannot be caught by a process. The process cannot do anything about it. It is no longer up to the process. It is dead. And that's the end of that. So generally when you're killing processes, you want to start with the least forceful one and work your way to the most forceful. So I generally go 15, 1, and then 9. And for the most part, 15 or 1 usually will do it. Only the most misbehaving processes have to be actually sig killed. How to let a process run in the background even after exiting terminal? So the answer is the no hup command. So if you run it with no hup and you close your terminal, no hup will block the hang up signal and the process will continue to run. So that guy right there. Let's see here. I have a bad habit of kill-9 everything. So that's actually not, it's not a terrible habit. The only time kill-9ing a process would actually harm something is if that process had some cleanup they had to do. Maybe it was right in the middle of writing to a file, and then you kill-9 it, it's going to stop right there dead in its tracks. Whereas, at least with a sig term, if it's writing a file, the sig term is just going to hang. It's going to finish writing the file, and then it's going to exit. So, you know, particularly programs that operate almost entirely in memory and don't commit anything to disk or do anything crazy or have to do like atomic operations, meaning, you know, a number of things where either they all happen or none of them happen. As long as stuff like that's not happening, sig killing is not overly dangerous, but you do want to go from least forceful to most forceful, of course. Yeah, kill-9 flash ROM while it's writing to the BIOS chip. That's a horrific idea. That's a very bad idea. That's one of the examples where kill-9 would be very bad. Is it common to pass small data with signals? So there is actually a signal called user 1 and 2. So this is, as far as I know, these are user signals. You can send these signals and they can mean whatever you want them to mean. And there's also signals that just cause output to a program. User 1 and user 2 is one of the things. I don't actually know what all these do. I'm familiar with you know, sig stop is the one you would send a process if you wanted to like suspend it. So if I do sleep 15 and I do Control Z, so I stopped that program. I stopped it in its tracks. I sent it a Control Z is how you would send a sig stop to a program. And if you want to bring it back, you know, FG, and then the sleep will continue, and then it'll exit like it should. Test kill-9 1 for us. No, I'm not doing that. So if I were to do kill-9 1, what that would kill is systemd, and it would just turn the stream off. So I definitely don't want to do that because I'm not quite done streaming yet. Okay, let's head to the next question. Hopefully that answered everything. This is a fun one. So, Unknown asked me, what are some interesting Linux tips and tricks? So I tried to pick the ones that hopefully nobody knows, but you have to let me know in the chat how many of these you actually know. So zcat I think is one that's not used as often as it should. So if I go into my log files here, and let me drop to root here. So take my syslog.2.gz. So if I do cat and I output this, you can see it's just a bunch of garbage because it's a gzipped file. But if I do zcat, then I get the actual stuff. So zcat is kind of like gzip followed by cat, but you don't actually produce like a extracted file, because you could do gzip-d and specify the file, and that will, un-gzip something. But then you have the file left over. With zcat, you get the compressed output just immediately. So that's something that a lot of people don't know about. Another one is watch. Watch is one of my favorite things, actually. So all watch does is it runs a particular command at a given interval. So like if I wanted to do, if I wanted to like watch my memory, I could just do watch free. And this runs my memory, usage every 2 seconds. If I wanted to speed it up, I could do -n1. So this is running free every 1/10 of a second forever. So, that can be kind of useful. And this is good. I use this a lot for curl. If I want to like constantly make API calls and just watch a particular command, you can just do whatever. Why not just extract the dev? What? Yeah, zcat is a maze for grepping. Yeah, watch DUH. Yeah, if you wanted to watch like file usage, you could do that. So this is kind of a fun command. I use this all the time. Very helpful, I think. Next one is last head for logins. Let me just check my other shell. Make sure I'm not going to like give out any personal information here. Okay, I'm not gonna. That's fine. So last is a command that shows you all the logins on the system. If you pipe it to head, then you just get the last logins. This is kind of useful for cloud more than anything else. Obviously, this is just my local machine. It doesn't really tell you anything. But if you were on a cloud server, you would also see the person's IP, the person that logged in, how long they were logged in, and so on. And so that's a very useful command for quickly checking who has been on a system. Obviously, the place that the last command is pulling from is the last log. And so if somebody were to delete all the info in the last log, then you wouldn't actually get anything on this command. But that's a fun command I like to use periodically. How many processes can it support? So I think that also used to be like 65,000, but it's a lot more now. So the processes, this is something new. I don't know when this happened. I don't know when PIDs this high started showing up. I know there is a thing. It's like proc, let's see, max. I don't know where it is. There's some read-only file that gives you like PID max and PID min. Somebody can probably say it in the chat. I know somebody knows it. Somebody post in the chat where you get min and max PID in the, that's the one. Proc, see, I knew I could trust Zach for this. Proc sys kernel PID max. So the max PID is 4.1 million, approximately. And that used to be not that high. You did 4 times, that means you get 4 times the credit. Does it pop up another user logs in after that? So if let's do last head again. So if these are all like, usually it says still logged in. This is probably when I open new terminals. It usually says still logged in, most part. What happens if you exceed PID max? Good question. Not sure. You'd probably get like a kernel thing that says like cannot allocate PID or something. I'm not actually sure. That's a lot of PIDs. Do PIDs get recycled? Yes. I don't know the exact like algorithm used for recycling. I don't know if it's like incremental or not, but they do eventually get recycled. Yeah, it's not a one-off. I use the Z commands often. zless, zgrep, zcat. Yeah, it's great for log grepping. If you have a job that does a lot of like log analysis and whatnot, these are super useful because gzip-d and extracting these files is not useful at all. Okay, next thing is tail-f to monitor logs. I'm gonna log into my EMKC server like this. whatever. So view tail-f, I'm just going to output the, the like access log. So this will just, people are spamming emqc contest. If you do tail-f with the, I don't know what's going on here. Somebody's spamming the contest or whatever. Yeah, if you do tail-f, access logs, then this is the kind of stuff you get. argv, argc, okay. Yeah, so tail-f is nice for just watching a log file, whether it's syslog or whatever else. And the last one is column-t. So this is one that a lot of people don't really know. I use this in my video where I was showing uses in groups. So column-t is really nice for taking like space-separated output and turning it into a nice table. So one particular thing I did, I'm going to use a slightly smaller terminal for this just because it's a lot of info. You'll have to zoom in your screen a little bit here. So if I output etc password, I don't get stuff that's overly useful, but what I do see is it's all colon separated. So if I pipe this output to column-t for table and then -s for separator, I specify colon, now look what I get. And ignore all the glitching, like OBS is doing that. I don't know why it's doing that. It's being weird. So you can see I get nice column output here, and this makes it really easy to read things. So column-t by default works on just space separated stuff, and you could specify the actual separator with -s. Yep, column is so good. And then you can use -s to separate it by whatever character you want to separate it by. Obviously, there's lots of things that are already, in nice column format, but that's a really easy thing to just quickly create table data. Works great with stuff that's separated by a character. You can also do the same, I guess, with CSV. Possibly. Yeah, so those are my fun tips and tricks. I have a lot more of those, but those are the ones that I thought maybe people didn't know. So yeah, I discovered it last week and mine was blown. Yeah, there's so many, and I learn new things too. Like I've been using Linux since probably like 2004, like 18 years. And I still learn new things all the time. So, Linux is so broad and there's so many commands that not even I know everything. I can tell you that much. Jaden, so every once in a while I notice the swap file, the swap fills. Is this something to be worried about? What's the best way to deal with it? So if you are getting, in general, a high swap usage is not an immediate concern. The concern is going to be if you have high memory usage and high swap usage and a high system load. If you have all of those things, then you are probably out of memory. And that's of course very bad, but not a big deal if you have a little bit of swap usage. Swap is never going to be zero. I mean, I have 32 gigabytes of RAM and it's using like all my swap, even though I have 14 gig free. So I don't know the exact algorithm that Linux kernel uses to determine when to swap and when not, but it will do it even if you have more than enough RAM. So it might be just like prioritizing stuff that's not accessed heavily, and that's what it chooses to swap. I think it's short, don't worry about it. No big deal. Okay, next thing. This was actually I'm really glad somebody asked this because this is kind of a fun thing. So, and it's something that a lot of people don't know. What's the purpose of the immutable flag for a file? This is actually something I saw in a sysadmin interview, and I wanted to show you what's up with that. No, not Samba. Sample. All right, we're gonna go into a folder called test here. There's no files in here. We're gonna create a file called info.txt. So we have a file here called info.txt. Obviously I can freely delete it and do whatever I want with it. There is in Linux something called attributes. And you can see the attributes by doing ls_adder. This just has E. We don't have to worry about that. The interview question essentially was the people that were presenting the question, they had set the immutable bit on this file, and they did so by using ch_adder plus I, and they specified the file. Now you'll notice when I hit enter, it doesn't actually work because setting immutable flags and I think some other attributes is a root only thing. So I gotta do sudo. And then now when I do ls_adder, you can see I have this I. And what the I does is it makes this file so it cannot be deleted, modified, or anything. It's stuck there, and this is true even for root. And we can demonstrate that here. So what the interview question basically said is delete info.txt. And so naturally, you know, somebody came into their VM environment and they said, all right, well, that's easy. I'll just do rm, you know, and it's like, oh, operation not permitted. So usually when somebody sees this, they immediately think, oh, I don't have the permissions. I should drop to root. And so instead, they just rerun this with sudo. And again, it says operation not permitted. Now the person is like, huh? You know, why is that happening? And the answer is because of the immutable bit. And this is kind of a little, it's a little thing not a lot of people know about. Now, with the immutable bit, it looks a lot like a permissions issue, but it's actually immutable. And the only way to remove this file is to unset the immutable bit. That's the only way. So kind of interesting thing. As far as like a practical use for the immutable bit, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. It's not something that I've ever used in practice. I suppose it would be good if you had like a multi-user system and you had a configuration file that all users had access to that you just wanted to be accessible, but not changed or deleted. You could set the immutable bit on that, but I suppose you could also accomplish the same thing with user permissions. So, you know, I don't know. If somebody in here, no, you wouldn't use chmod, so you would use ch_adder. So if you wanted to get rid of the immutable flag, you would do ch_adder, you would do -i to minus the immutable bit, specify the file, and then now it's good. You know, now you can remove it just like you always could. Yeah, you could set the immutable flag to authorized keys. Yeah, it's whether you use it or not, I guess is up to you. I really never use it. But it was a fun question anyway, and it was something I saw in an interview one time. Not one that I was taking. I was doing like an interview audit. It's also a root only thing. I suppose that's important. Even root can't delete a file that's immutable. Okay, this was something that somebody was asking about earlier. We're going to talk a little bit about SSH now, because SSH is super important. You can do so much stuff with it, and it's worth looking at it. The perhaps most fundamental thing that people ask about SSH is, how do I set my server up to be able to access it via SSH? And the answer is you have to create a public and private key. So I'm going to create a brand new user. I'm going to give myself access to my server. So I'm going to do user add. I'm going to specify something like Timmy, create a user Timmy. And then we'll switch user to Timmy. Oh, we got to give Timmy a thing. We will give him bin bash. There we go. Oh, he doesn't have a home directory. All right, he needs a home directory. Oh no. All right, we will give him a home directory with M. We will give him a login shell of a bin bash. Timmy. Yay. Switch user, Timmy. Timmy, hooray. I have colors. All right. Timmy has his own thing now. Lovely. So I am as a user called Timmy. if I try to SSH to my cloud server, you can see it does not work. Click yes, permission denied, can't do it. So how can Timmy get access to that server? The answer is he must create an SSH key pair. This can be done with ssh-keygen trsa. This will create a new public-private key pair. You can specify where you want it to go. The most common is in the .ssh thing. Enter passphrase. I'm gonna just do no passphrase, and then that's gonna be that. So if I look inside his SSH directory, I get idrsa and idrsa.pub. I'm not going to show the value of idrsa because that's your actual private key, and I don't want anybody in the stream like logging into my system real quick while I add it. But I will show you the contents of idrsa.pub. Well, oh well, you don't have the whole thing anyway. Did that by accident. So this is the public key. This is the key that we need to insert onto the actual machine. So the way SSH works is you have a private key, and then you have a public key that gets inserted into servers you need to log into, specifically authorized_keys. And that is what we're going to do now. As far as getting this key to the server, you can do it one of two ways. You can use ssh-copy-id, and then you specify the public key you want to add, and then you log into the system. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to open a new terminal. So we can do this here. I already have access to my machine, of course, so I'll do mkc. Now there's lots of authorized keys. I'm going to SSH. You can see I have authorized keys. There's no danger in showing these because they're just public keys. So I'm not going to show you the actual names, but these are the two keys that are allowed access to this machine. And it's really just my local computer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to grab Timmy's public key. I'm going to drop it into this file. Timmy@Helix. It's the name of my system. Save the file, and we're good. So now 3 people have access to it. If you use the ssh copy ID command, it does exactly the same thing. So made a private key, made a public key, we put it in the authorized keys file on the server, and now when Timmy tries to log in to emkc, he can. And that's that. So yeah, that's how you set up SSH. It's quite simple. It's very easy. It's pretty quick. And then this is what you always should do. You should never use password login for SSH. It's yeah. Oh, good point. Good point. So I did SSH as root for the remote user, but it's taking from Timmy's /home/Timmy/.ssh. I put Timmy's public key into the root user just because that's often what I do. I don't actually log in as a normal user. I log in as the root user. But if Timmy had a user on the remote system, then you would log in as Timmy. And then if I exit and I go back into my keys and I delete that one, all your PKs belong to us. Nope, these are public keys. Nothing belongs to you. I don't want to type last. I'm gonna give away all my IPs. So I deleted Timmy's public key. If I go try to log in now, you can see that I no longer am able to, and that's that. No, you don't have to always use VI and Vim. If you want to use, you can use whatever editor you want for sure. Yeah, if you like Nano, use Nano. If you like VI, use VI. I can use Vim too. It's not I like Nano, that's what I prefer, but I also do very, very basic editing. Just configuration files, authorized keys, very small stuff. So I don't worry about all that much. Also, thank you, Zach, for the $20. I appreciate that. And don't do bad things with my private key. Uh-oh, it's freaking out. You know what I'm running on my other terminal right now? Last head, to see if anybody logged in, and the answer is no. So we're good. Emacs makes you productive. Yeah, SSH copy ID. That's generally what I do. I want to do it manually just so you can see the actual file. But SSH copy ID does the exact same thing. So no sweat on that. We'll get rid of Timmy's account. This was a really good question. Pratam? I think that's Indian name, right? Pratamsi. So what happens if I lose access or get locked out of a Linux system? What can I do? So that depends. So the thing about Linux is if you have physical access to a Linux machine, you can just access the machine. You can recover your access no matter what. It doesn't matter if you forget the password or whatever. In the cloud, a little more complicated because you don't have physical access to the machine. And even if you had physical access to the cloud machine, you'd only have access to the hypervisor because everything in the cloud is all virtualized anyways. It's not like you're renting a full machine, at least with respect to like a $5 droplet or a $14 thing on GCP. So if you're in the cloud, if you lose access, the best way is to see if your cloud provider just has a reset password thing. A lot of times they can reset your root password and then that will let you log back in. Now, if you are using public key, private key, which you should be, then you won't actually be able to use that root password to log in because password login will not be enabled. So that won't be overly useful. The next thing you would want to check is to see if that particular provider had an actual console that you could log in. So the console would be like if you actually had a monitor hooked up to the machine, you would be able to see, the actual TTY there. And so once you have that, you could log in as root and then just reset all your stuff. If you do not have a console access and you're in the cloud and you have public key, private key, then you're just locked out. Contact support. Now, if it's a local machine that you actually have in front of you, this is a lot easier. So assuming you haven't encrypted everything, we'll just assume that you don't. If you've encrypted your entire box and you don't know the password to decrypt it, then of course you're screwed. That's the whole point of encryption. But assuming there is no encryption, the way you would recover your system is you would boot using a live CD. And I say live CD, but it could be a live USB flash drive. It doesn't matter. The point is you're going to burn a ISO of a distro. Could be Ubuntu, could be Fedora. It doesn't matter what you actually pick. Could be Arch. As long as this is something that you can boot from flash and get a command line. Once you do that, what you can do is you can mount the actual hard drive that you're trying to recover in the environment of your live CD. And then you can do something called, I can't believe I forgot this term. Oh my God, help me chat. What is the term for like changing the root? Oh, it's change root, it's change root, ch root. Oh my God, I had a huge brain fart. I'll write it in the chat. So you do what's called chroot, change root, whatever. And that will actually take your live CD distro that you're running right now, and it'll apply the drive as if it's now root. So for all intents and purposes, you're like in the system now. And then all you do is type passwd and just change the password. That's it. Reboot and you're done. No worries. No, they can keep spamming. Everybody spam chroot because I forgot it live on stream. So, and that's it. Mount the drive, type password, and you're done. Easy, easy peasy. You pick the hard way. What's the easy way? It's the easy way. There's a variety of other ways. You could also, if you have like a recovery mode in your system, you could actually do it that way too. But we'll just assume that that you don't. LiveCD is also good for like fixing broken Linux systems. Oh, edit boot args. Okay, yeah, that's another way as well. Single user mode. Let me check chat here. Edit bootloader, RW init, sysroot, binsh. Nice. What font are you using in Atom? I have no idea. It's like the default one. Whatever comes with it. Oh, did you choose an editor yet since Atom is going to be dead? Not yet. I'm gonna continue using Atom until it breaks. I'm gonna ride that train to the very end. We'll see what happens. Asking the audience for help with Linux commands during a live stream is cheating. Yeah, I know. I couldn't, you know, I haven't done like a trooted environment in so long that I totally forgot about that term. Totally forgot. I knew it in my head. I knew what I needed to do. I just forgot the term. Okay, we got a couple more questions. We're kind of coming up to the end. So I got 2 more questions that were pre-submitted to me, and then I'm going to focus entirely on chat. So JC asked, what are checksums? I've seen it on ISOs and places. What's the point? So the whole point of a checksum is, the high level purpose is to ensure that you are getting the software that you believe you're getting. So let me open up Xubuntu. Oh, let me turn on Dark Reader so I don't burn retinas. There we go. Oh, by the way, whoever told me about Dark Reader, like I love you so much, because my retinas are no longer getting burned by weird things. Okay, so I'm gonna go download Xubuntu. Do they even supply the checksums anymore? They must, right? Torrent downloads. No, I don't want that. No, I don't want that. Where is it? Minimal CD. Oh, it's burned. It burns. Should have prepared ahead of time here. Let's try Australia. Check out the mirrors. Here we go. Much better. Okay. So you can see that in this mirror, I'll zoom it in for you. They're giving you 2 things. They're giving you the SHA 256 sum. So that's the sum. And then they're giving you the actual ISO. So the point of supplying the sum and the ISO is, so once you have the ISO, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go to our test folder. We'll just touch, you know, something.txt. We'll just add that something to say like hello world. And then if you want to take a sum of this file, if you want to know like what its hash is, you could, oh, David Williams, been a meeting this whole time, so missed most of the stream. I got to go, but you're awesome. Thanks for doing these streams and being involved in this community. Yes, well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming and supporting the stream. I appreciate it. And come see us on Discord, and get your supporter role in Discord if you haven't. So thank you, and enjoy your meetings. Yeah, Dark Reader is so good. Dark Reader is just, so Dark Reader lets you just go from like light to dark mode, and it's a Chrome extension. If you just go to Google and just type Dark Reader, it's this thing right here. So add this to your Chrome immediately. Very important. And then you'll never burn your retinas again. I promise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this something.txt. I'm going to cat something.txt into SHA 256 sum. You can see what it gives me. It gives me this. So if I wanted to verify that the ISO I got was the correct one, I would download the ISO here. I would cat that ISO into SHA 256 sum, and I would make sure that the output sum was what's provided here. And if it was, then I know I have authentic software. And this is particularly important for things like operating systems, because if you were to get like a tainted operating system ISO, then you're running tainted software. Not ideal. and this will make sure it doesn't happen. If this matches the sum, you got the thing that they want you to get. You've doxed yourself thrice this stream. Yeah, I don't care. Well, public key, that's not doxing. It's called a public key because it's supposed to be public. And then I showed my IP, yeah, but I also don't care. And my email's on my GitHub, so it's fine. Don't worry. No worries. Everybody can have my email and my IP. There's nothing here. Let's see. Oh, so I don't actually use Chrome. It's a Chrome extension just because that's just what it is. I don't use Chrome though. I use Brave. You should definitely use Brave if you're looking for a new browser that's more privacy oriented. Brave is the way to go. Yes, send me an email. Here's my email. Nope, not gonna do that. I changed my mind. Yeah, so that's checksums. You can take a sum of anything, of an ISO, of a file, of whatever you want to do. Time to spam mail for EM. I actually have I have an @Linux email, believe it or not. I'm definitely not going to post that, but I do have one. Brave have an option for default to dark mode. So no, this is not enough. So Brave dark mode just makes Brave dark. So dark reader will convert any light theme page into dark theme, even if they don't support dark theme. Really good. Really helpful. No more retinal burn. Very good. Oh, I missed a question a long time ago, Hoblik. I don't know if you're still on the stream. You said, can you explain argv and argc, please? I can't do anything in C, and Linux is so stressful. So argc is just the number of arguments that was supplied to a command. And then argv is just a array of character arrays of the values of those args. So if argc is 1, it means you have one arg, and then you can access it at argv square brackets 1. Yes, the stream will be on demand later. The recording will go up right at the end of the stream. So yep, you can always watch that afterwards. Does Brave make the system slower? No. So Brave is just Chromium with privacy stuff and built-in ad block. Brave is also really great because Brave works on mobile, and that's very important. As far as I know, unless somebody can tell me otherwise in the chat, Brave browser is the only way to get ad block on mobile. Is that correct? Because you can't install Chrome extensions on Chrome mobile, I don't think. Makes Brave the only way to do it. Is Brave open source? I don't believe so. Yeah. Is this stream sponsored by Brave? It's not. This is not. I will evangelize Brave until the end of days for absolutely no compensation because I love it so much. Here. If you want a great browser, there it is. Okay, last one. What firewall do you use? This is an interesting question. So I personally like UFW, and you can excoriate me in the chat if you want. I don't know if that's what everybody else uses, but I like UFW. I previously just used IP tables directly. I got pretty good at it. Obviously, when I first started using Linux, I used GUIs, for Linux. So, and it's not hard to find a GUI for IP tables. But ever since I stopped doing that, I now use UFW, which is uncomplicated firewall. I like how easy it is. UFW allow 22, easy. UFW deny incoming. So it's very simple. Okay, we're at the end of the stream. I'm looking entirely at chat now. We've done all the pre-done questions. Hopefully that was useful. How are you sure Brave is private if it's not open source? That's not a bad question, I guess. But maybe it is open source. Is Brave open source? Is Brave browser open source? Oh, it is open source. Brave browser is open source. You can get it on GitHub. Oh yeah, it's 100% open source. Okay, it is open source, so that's how I know. I don't personally know if it's private. I just make the assumption that somebody who's smarter than me at looking at this kind of software and auditing it knows that it's private. How to see UFW rules without activating it? I don't actually know. Does it not work? UFW show? I'm sorry, status? I guess not. I don't know. It's usually always active for me. I don't have a UFW on my local system, but on my cloud system, I just do UFW status and I get the stuff. Yeah, Brave is open source. I don't know why I thought it wasn't. Of course it is, for sure. IP tables is the best net filter front end. Yeah, so as far as I know, and here again, correct me if I'm wrong, UFW does use IP tables. UFW is just a easier way to manage that, but I think it still uses IP tables. Great stream, thank you. Yes, thank you for coming, Dragon. Appreciate that. Oh, when will you install Arch? I actually have a stream called Installing Arch Linux, and that's what it was all about. I think I also compared some other distros as well. Yep, my firewall is not enabled. I don't use a local firewall, but that's I don't know why. Just there's no need. There's no threats in my house. At least that's how I see it. Except maybe my girlfriend. Maybe she wants to hack the box. How can I learn virtualization technology? Probably the easiest way is just to grab, look into, what's it actually called? Look into Intel virtualization, get a VM software, either VMware VirtualBox, install some VMs, figure out how all that works. That's probably the best place to start. That'd be the most practical application. Yeah, UFW much nicer than IP tables for brain. Yeah, for sure. Why did Linux succeed as a project? I think it succeeded because it filled a very specific niche. So, it's not Unix, therefore it wasn't paid. It's paid and locked. Obviously Unix probably would have been the biggest thing ever if it were free, but it was not. So, Linux also was written from the ground up, and it was written to not be Unix, of course, because if Linux were just Unix, then that wouldn't be useful. But it was inspired in a lot of ways by Unix. So I think it got big because there was some white space there. There was a need for a browser like Linux at the time, and that's why it went. Yeah. Hopefully that's a good answer. That felt like kind of a cheap answer, but the kind of vague. It's just a good project. Just a good project. I tried to install Dark Reader and got forbidden. Won't do it. Huh, that's weird. Yeah, Dark Reader is really good. Very good. What's your streaming schedule? So I'm streaming every 2 weeks for the next probably 4 weeks. And I think that's going to be it at the end. Every 2 weeks except holidays. Okay, I think we're pretty much at the end of the stream. Last call for questions. Last call. If there's anything else you got a question for, let me know right now. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah, UFW is just a front for IP. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. YouTube needs a reply function in chat. No, it doesn't. That would be chaotic. Where's your hat? My hat's gone. I started to just like my hair. So, plus now everybody knows I'm not bald. I'm not balding. I got like decent hair, right? So, oh, posted Q a while ago. Can you repost the question? How to prevent and deal with config file .file clutter in your home directory. I guess just remove stuff you no longer need. That's about all I do. Is I review my .files periodically and just see stuff that is just not like relevant to what I'm working on anymore, and I just delete it. I don't know if I can automate a way though. Can you share something about pipes in ICP? I'm sorry, IPC. That's probably outside the scope of the stream. I probably can't explain that right now. Maybe something worth mentioning is repos and working with non-OS built-in repos, GPG keys, third-party repos for additional app access, often encountered when following installed tuts online. So the whole idea behind GPG keys is just authenticity of acquisition of software. Like, distros have their particular repos. So, Xubuntu, you get everything from apt, Arch, you get everything from the AUR, and the official, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Arch has an official one, and then the AUR, which is the unofficial one, I think. And then, things downstream from Red Hat, they get their stuff with DNF. And these are all repos provided. Some are provided by the actual vendor of the software, and then others come from third-party repositories. With Xubuntu, which is the one I'm most familiar with, you can install, not install, but, well, I guess install. You can add people's references to their repos, and then you can get software that way. What's the best language for coding? Oh, that's super subjective. I like Node.js, but I think they're all good. Is Python worth it in 2022? Absolutely, yes. Python's one of the fastest growing languages and also the easiest. So definitely, yeah. Do you see yourself as a software developer or IT guy? Definitely software developer. Yeah, that's where my knowledge is. Any like IT stuff, so like networking and various other stuff. Like I'm not a professional at any of that. A lot of it I just know because I needed to learn it out of necessity. But first and foremost, I'm a software engineer for sure. Oh, Chris Heath, I got a check mark. Ever use fail2ban to block repeat offenders probing ports? Sometimes depends on the use case. If I see fail2ban as like good for low hanging fruit, that keeps the kind of like mess out. But the other thing I do find is that overly aggressive fail2ban rules tends to lock out legit users. I don't particularly like that, but I have and do use fail2ban for some servers and not for others. Let's see. Is www data a special user coming from Apache or Nginx? So www data, I think, originated with Apache, but I think for backwards compatibility, it can also be used with Nginx. Nginx is usually just Nginx, but I think it originated with Apache for sure. I love watching your videos, especially when you punish credit card scammers. Yeah, I do those videos occasionally, but it's not my brand. I'm not a scammer guy. I get a text message every now and again, and I just feel like I got to do something. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for the stream. So we're gonna wrap it up here. So thank you so much for everybody coming out to support the stream, especially the people that sent me donations. I really appreciate that. Those are totally optional. I love when people do it. Thank you so much for that. The contents of this stream will go up on its own video here in about a half hour after it finishes processing and all that. Other than that, we will be meeting again for another stream here in 2 weeks from today, same time. It's going to be 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time. 4 p.m. GMT, I think, for all our across the pond friends. Yeah, 4 p.m. GMT for our European friends. And other than that, if you want to go further, if you want to speak with me or other people who are like-minded like yourselves on engineering or otherwise, you can join me on Discord, discord.gg/engineerman, and have a look at that. There's 21,000 people there, so pretty big community. Lots of stuff going on 24/7 across all time zones. And definitely come check that out if you have not. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, rest of their day or night, wherever you might be. And I hope to see you on a future video and or a future stream in 2 weeks from now. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see everybody later.